Talk don't bother me.
And I'm Miss Joan Moossy.
Joining us, one of our guests tonight is here, Professor Irwin.
Where were the Buccaneers?
Professor Corey.
She's under my bucket
You're
hat.
live on the air. We'll just let you be there.
We're back on the air. So welcome.
We're on the air again?
Talk, yes.
Isn't that marvelous? People don't know that we, who weigh almost 100 pounds apiece, are on the air. We're floating somewhere in mid-bush area. Bush, I'll tell you something. I'd rather be a son of a bitch than a son of a bush. You talk about four-letter words of Lenny Bruce. You know a four-letter word that offends me the most?
What is it?
B-U-S-H.
Oh.
That's a very offensive term.
For those of you who don't know Professor Irwin Corey, you soon will. And if you have any doubts after this show, you should visit a doctor. I'll give you a name, because Irwin is somebody that you can have no doubts about. Hi, I'm Shannon Taylor, and Mr. DeRienzo and I are here from MNN, and I'm quite exhausted after the...
Because we already did one show at 7.
I don't know how these people have the energy they do, and that's why we have the other guests who are going to talk about health and fitness, and God bless them, because it's not my subject.
Let's talk about our guest, Shannon. We have Jeannie Cartel and Ted Kavanau, who are the authors of Get Fit in Bed, which is about exercises that you can use in order in your own bed to get to bed earlier and to maybe help you live to a ripe and active age and beyond.
And unlike my movie Relaxercise, these are serious exercises. These can really benefit you in terms of keeping in shape and your energy, your sleep. Tell us a little bit.
Your
Flexibility,
strength, your endurance.
Can you tell us one specific exercise?
The exercises, one specific exercise, for example, would be while you're on your back to do leg raises. Another one would be to do alternating arm and leg stretches. The exercises are very, very simple exercises, and the intensity of your workout is very dependent upon how you want to do it. If you want to do the repetitions more rapidly, if you want to do more repetitions, it makes for a much more intensive
So you
exercise
can tailor
program.
it to your own
tailor
needs.
it for your own needs, which is why the book is so, and the exercises are so user-friendly. They're done in a sequence that's easy to follow. The exercises are easy to follow. The pictures are very helpful, and the instructions are very simple.
And would this work for somebody of any age group?
Any age group, any level of health. People who just don't want to go to the gym because they don't have the time, or people who are recovering from surgery or any kind of disease entity.
Here's some pictures here that folks can see. We'll hold it up.
Or athletes. If you're an athlete and you do these exercises, they can be part of your athletics. In other words, they can help build you up.
It doesn't have to be the only thing you do.
No, it won't be the only.
Just be a part of your routine.
That's right. It's part of the routine. In fact, some of these exercises are karate-based exercises. I was out of shape when I started to exercise on the cot and learn these things. So in my 60s, I went into the martial arts, and I used these things to help me build up. So I included some karate exercises that are very simple. Because what happens with these exercises, they build up. In other words, they start off very simply, and the simple exercises condition you for what comes next in the very same routine. And some of them are yoga types, some of them are karate types, some of them are formal exercise types.
So you draw from different disciplines.
We draw from different disciplines, but each one leads to the next one, and anyone can do them. And they are very effective as far as reducing anxiety.
Now tell us about if somebody wants more information. If they're on the internet, is there a website they can
There's
go to?
There's a website called getfitinbed.com,
Okay.
and they can even leave messages for Ted or myself, and we'll respond to them. Another thing about the book, though, that I'd like to add is for anyone who fears that the exercises might be too vigorous, there are areas in the book that actually give modifications. So if the patient has a back injury or a breathing problem or any kind of medical condition, the modifications are right there in the book. So again, it's we were very conscious about setting up a book that was safe for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I was here with Dr. Professor Corey. Sorry, Professor.
Yeah.
And I was saying to everybody, look, Professor Corey's 90. He's in terrific condition. He's sharp as a razor. And what does he do to stay fit? I worried that when people wouldn't buy the book, they would find out what Professor Corey does to stay fit. What is it you do to stay so fit and mentally sharp?
Are you a health nut?
Well, if I tell everybody what I do, they'll be in the same position that I'm in. And being an ego, I would never allow my information to benefit others who give me nothing in a contribution to the information that I might offer. I mean, the hell with that.
But you are the foremost authority.
Well, that's the truth. See, the truth will out.
That's right.
No, you see, the human body, the human being, the flies, the trees, the fish, the fowl, the beasts of burden are all parts of life. Human beings are a small speck in the mosaic of life. And this is the miracle on this planet Earth. Life is a miracle. Walking on the water was a trick.
What do you think about animal rights? What is your position on animal rights?
Well, I would forget about animal rights and think of the rights of the millions of people that are being killed in Iraq and Iran. What do we care about the animals? We don't give a goddamn about the human beings?
That's enough. There's a limit. There's a limit. From 7 to 7:30, I stood it. There's a limit. The animals came here first. The mosaic is the animals and the vegetarians and so on and so forth. And so on. And listen to more programs on animal rights in the future coming up here. And I got news for you. They lived a lot longer than 92.
I think, Professor Corey, that if the Taliban, if Al-Qaeda, if all those people would exercise in bed and do my routines, they would change. If they would exercise in bed, they would change their minds. They would cure a lot of problems.
More exercise than you do. They keep running away from the American soldiers. How much more exercise do you want them to have?
Professor Corey, Paul DeRienzo here. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about how you got into being the expert on everything. How did
I never made a remark like that. I never said I'm the world's foremost on everything. Never.
Okay.
I may be the world's foremost authority, but that does not mean on everything. That's the only thing that I'm not an authority on. I'm not an authority on everything.
We have your, right, the phone number is on the screen, and we want to take your calls at 212-757-1538. But I wanted to find out a little bit about how it is you became Professor Irwin Corey. Why did you decide to go in that direction of academics?
Well, I became Professor Irwin Corey by a guy called Richard Dyer Bennett, who was a folk singer who made Waltzing Matilda, a song very famous.
Oh, I love
that song. And he was the one that recommended Burl Ives to be a singer at the Vanguard. And Burl Ives, on the United Un-American Activities Commission, said that Richard Dyer Bennett was a communist. A guy that gave him his job, he ratted on. Oh. Loose lips, Burl Ives. A pig, right? Like Kazan. He got an award in the year of the what?
Rat.
The year of the rat.
Oh.
And he is a rat.
Oops.
The man said in Vasquez's book, naming names, he says, I felt miserable the way they booted me out of the party.
Oh.
And then in page 2, he says, I was so angry what was going on that I quit the party. Did he quit or was he booted out? Kazan was a pig. As soon as he ratted, as soon as he told, he got a $500,000 contract with Warner Brothers.
So, Professor Corey, how did you become Professor Corey?
That's all. So Richard Dyer Bennett introduced me to the Vanguard.
At the
my
Village
first
Vanguard.
nightclub job. And I was going to give a lecture on Shakespeare Unexpurgated. And as I talk about it, I says, we all know Othello which we know as Hamlet.
That's right.
This is Shakespeare wrote many plays, and each of his plays consisted of 5 acts, and each act was considered an entity by itself and could have been given alone and away from each. But how did Julius keep all these entities together to make a complete ent? There was a guy called, what's his name? Kenneth Tynan. Did you ever hear of him?
Yes.
One of the great, calls me a chaplain's tramp with a college education. He raved about me. A guy, a reporter from the United States, saw the same show that Kenneth Tynan saw in London. And the American said he has never recalled another comedian from America that has been such a resounding failure. And on Mr. Kenneth Tynan's last line, he says, "I beg you to be there." The reason the American reporter didn't like me is because part of my routine, which Kenneth Tynan quotes, says, "You all remember on the Lupercal, I thrice presented him a thringly thrown. Sophie Tucker is a fat pig." He says, notice the change of meter in the last line, the impish meter in the last line. And he says, "I beg you to be there." But this guy, this asshole who signs his name, didn't like me because I called Sophie Tucker a fat pig. I was on the bill with Sophie Tucker in 1952 at the Palladium in London. I got better reviews than she did. One of the reviews says, "He mingles the wise, the charming, and the farouche." Farouche is a French word, means wild and shy. So this Bernard Hughes, a Gentile, says to me, "Well, how would you use the word farouche in a sentence?" I says, "It's easy. Farouche, ato, adonai." Every Jewish prayer starts with Ruch ato adonai. Every Jewish. Well, anyway, I was a big hit. The guy wrote the article, he says, if he doesn't change his material, he won't last his engagement. I was held over for 7 weeks.
You've been held over
You probably
for...
outlasted him.
yeah.
It was in it was called The Establishment, that Peter Cook, in fact, I got Lenny Bruce the job in England. Because Kenneth Tynan wanted me to open the place, but I was too busy for that year. I recommended Bruce, and he thanked me, and Bruce opened. And then Bruce writes me a letter. He says he found a place here in London, be great for you. Take the job. I'm recommending you. He said, no, I recommended him. He didn't know that I also recommended him for the job at Cafe Agogo in 1963. I recommended him for that job. He didn't know it. And yet, when they busted him, I took his place.
Oh, you were his replacement.
There was a genius.
Yes, he was.
No, yes, he was a genius. You only become a genius at one part of your life. You know what part that is? When you die. Then you become a genius. Because a genius is a person who has not fulfilled his potential. Isn't that true?
You're asking me, Professor Corey.
Well, I'm asking you a question. It's a rhetorical question. I don't expect any
I
answer.
talk about getting fit in bed, that's all I know.
Well, you know, more than that, Ted Kavanau, one of the founders of CNN, and we were discussing CNN before that and your history in journalism and being the first cable broadcaster probably in the United States.
And we're thrilled to have you here.
We're thrilled to have you here. Welcome to Let Them Talk. And you have a pointedly different political outlook than Professor Corey.
Everybody has a pointedly different outlook than Professor Corey. But for God's sakes,
Shannon Taylor.
Kazan only named names that everybody else had named 10 times already.
Well, you know, I am trying to avoid bringing politics into this because we're trying to sell books out there in Manhattan. So I think but of course, Professor Corey denounced George Bush. All right, I'm one of George Bush's friends, and by the way, as far as the politics are of the Un-American Activities Committee, so on and so on, just let me say for the record, that was run by Democrats, not by Republicans, and the Communist Party had a very strong discipline in Hollywood of what went on and what they wrote and everything else. Very strong discipline. And were there communists in Hollywood? Yes, throughout the party was very popular during the 30s and the
30 Seconds Over Tokyo was that the propaganda?
I don't
Written by Golden Trumbo. His name was taken off. 30 Seconds Over Tokyo was a communist propaganda?
No, but the party discipline was among those writers.
What's wrong
They
approved
what the party. They wrote what the party approved.
What's wrong with it? What is wrong with the communists getting a little control over a union? What's wrong with it?
Because they were taking their orders, Professor Corey, from Russia. They were taking their orders from Russia.
That's right.
That was wrong.
They were taking their orders from Russia.
Because
what evidence have you got? In the first place, it was unconstitutional to have the un-American activity in focus. You know why? Because the secret ballot was destroyed when you ask a member of a legally accepted party. The Communist Party was a legal party in the United States. And you cannot ask a person how they vote because you'll destroy the secret ballot. They have no right to investigate them. Why do you say? You know what I said? If the Activity Committee Un-American ever called me, they would say to me, "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" My answer to that would be, "Sir, do you mind repeating the question?"
you asked me, I'm going to answer this question because you asked it, and the audience out there should know. What are the proof? What is the evidence?
Were you ever, or are you now a member of the Democratic Party?
The answer to your question is that something called the Venona transcripts.
Oh, the Venona transcripts? I will not give you that particular privilege of using that as a premise, because that, I think, is a complete hoax. You accept it, but I don't accept it. Who are you, more important than a little me?
You see, you wouldn't take my suggestion. I said talk about the bed and talk about the book. And talk about,
but this is fascinating. I think
you don't know how fascinating this is going to be.
Because the book about being fit in bed, I mean, I wish I was as fit at my age as these gentlemen are right now who are going at it 50 years now over this issue that most people don't even remember, yet it's so important in American history. And I'm glad we're giving an education to folks who are out there who don't know about UAC and Hollywood and.
Hey, we're getting a bunch of phone calls.
Let's try to take let's try a couple of phone calls.
Change it up by taking.
Yeah, let's change it up with some calls.
In case anybody's got an interesting.
That's the number below. You can see 212-757, and you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, hello, gentlemen, and hello, Professor. I wish you could shed some light. This is Omar calling from the village of Harlem. You look beautiful, my brother. I wanted to ask you your opinion on the way they treated Paul Robeson, Canada Lee, and a lot of the African-American actors and actresses that were in Hollywood at the time. As you know, Paul Robeson was a scholar from Rutgers University. He was well-renowned, and they just about bankrupt him, and he had to just about go almost into exile. Also, if you can remember Josephine Baker, who fled and lived in Paris for many, many years. I wish you could shed some light, and even Charlie Chaplin, a lot of the other actors who were under that McCarthy period. I think it was around 1952, 1953 when they had that quote underline Red Scare, and everyone was considered a communist if they couldn't recite the Star-Spangled Banner in Russia. Tongue-in-cheek, that is. I'll hang up and listen to your response.
Thank
you
you
look
very
beautiful,
much, Omar.
my brother.
All right, thanks for calling, Omar. Professor Corey, you want to answer Omar's question?
What did I ask who?
Omar just called in with a question for you.
Omar who?
Omar from the Bronx.
Hello there, Mr. Bronx. What was your question?
First of all, Charlie Chaplin. Second of all, Paul Robeson. Third of all, Canada Lee. All victims of the McCarthy period scare, yes or no? The gentleman believes yes. I believe certainly Canada Lee was practically run out of town. Charlie Chaplin was kept out of town by that bastard Hoover, and I'm a Republican conservative, and I consider that bastard Hoover a bastard Hoover. And wait a minute. No, I'm not even allowing a dissenting point of view.
This is great, man.
I say that Mary Hoover is not a bastard. The only one that was a bastard happened to be Jesus. Nobody knew who his father was. They think it was the Holy Ghost, because God said that the Holy Ghost will come upon you and you will become pregnant. And Mary looks and says, but I don't know any men. She says, don't worry, have I got a ghost for you? It was the ghost that brought Mary into the world. You see, Christianity is based on Hebrew and paganism, because the pagans believed that the gods came down from Mount Olympus, give it to the human beings, and blamed it on the citizens.
Let's take another call. We have so many coming in. Go ahead. Go, yes.
I just want to say in FBI Director Hoover's behalf that when the Japanese were interned, you remember that? Roosevelt interned them. The Supreme Court approved of that. The person who objected to it was J. Edgar Hoover.
And Eleanor.
Yeah, don't give Hoover any credit for anything. Hoover told me, he says there are 10,000 Communist Party members in the United States. He says 5,200 of them are FBI agents.
Oh, infiltrated.
Okay.
They were supporting the Communist Party with their 100 a week dues.
We're going to go to the call.
People are getting...
We're going to take another phone call.
You're on.
Got another phone call coming in?
Coming in.
Hi, Mr. Bronx.
Say hello, it's good to see you, and I always welcome your thoughts. Bye-bye.
What's your...
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have another call? A fan who's saying thank you.
No fans.
And we have another call. You're on.
Hello, I just listened to the show, but since I'm talking about Christ and paganism and false religions, I would like to add to the show by saying that most religions that offer you eternal life through enlightenment are usually satanic religions, because the first lie ever recorded to man was by the Satan, saying that thou shalt not surely die.
All right, thank you very much. We don't have much time, so we don't have a lot of time for those calls. Well, I'm not sure. That wasn't a question, really.
No, I think he wanted to make a statement.
It was just a statement.
He was making a statement.
Right. Let's try again.
Here we go.
Hello. You're on.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd like to say thank you to Professor Corey for giving me decades of education and humor. And I have to say that thank him because he told me the funniest joke I've ever heard, if I could just try and say it in the presence of the great one. What he said was telling us that Richard Nixon didn't have phlebitis, he had syphilis, because you can't fuck that many people and not catch something.
That was Jackie Mason who told you that joke. Get the source right.
Go on, thank you.
That happened to my joke.
All right, thank you for calling.
I didn't say it as succinctly as you said it, but I said you can't screw 200 million people and not catch something. And that's what Nixon was, a Jew hater if there ever was one. There is no such thing as anti-Semitism. It's anti-Jewish because the Turks are Semites. The Egyptians are Semites. It's anti-Jewish, not anti-Semitic.
Okay.
I just want to say something again about people when if you're calling Richard Nixon anti-Semitic. I think my memory is a little bit weak on this, but the Yom Kippur War, when Israel was being overrun and the Egyptians were crossing the borders, the man who saved Israel was Richard Nixon. He sent a huge. He took a risk. He took a risk of the Third World War with. He took a risk of war with the Soviet Union because he sent a massive aerial supply of new tanks and weapons to Israel in their darkest hour. He saved Israel in those days.
Then he should be condemned.
Oh, I happen to agree with Mr. Kavanau. He's 100% right on this. Kissinger condemned Israel, and Nixon was her only friend in those days, and God bless him for that action.
We're going to take a call.
What am I doing in the middle of this firing range?
Hang on a second. We have another phone
We have another call.
Here we go.
Hi, you're on. We don't have
I
much
was
time.
wondering how the master feels about who Alan Dulles is.
About what?
What, dear?
I was wondering if he knows who Alan Dulles is, because I don't know, and I want to learn something
Alan
about
Dulles.
No, I want to say Alan Dulles.
We don't have enough
is
time.
another
That's like
Jew
we have to have a. He was like he was the former CIA director of the 1950s and was the architect of foreign policy at that time.
I want to say something. Did they give Poland East Prussia after World War II? After World War I, they gave them what was known as a Polish corridor, because it was a landlocked country, and they gave them access to the Baltic. So they gave them the thing called the Polish corridor. It split Germany from East Prussia to the mainland. After World War II, they gave Poland East Prussia, which is a piece of territory that's as large as the state of Pennsylvania. If they gave Poland East Prussia, they should have given the Jews Alsace-Lorraine and the Rhineland, because 600,000 German Jews were killed. 140,000 French Jews were killed. Their land and lives were taken from them. So the property that the Jews had of 600,000 should have been given to the remaining Jews of the world. If they gave Poland East Prussia, they could have given the Jews the Rhineland and Alsace-Lorraine.
Well, we only have
because they
30
took it from them.
seconds left. So in the last 30 seconds, I just want to, I'm sorry we can't take any more calls. I'd love to have more time, and we have to do this again sometime so we can just take more calls, because these are great calls.
Fun.
So thank you all very much.
Everybody for being with us.
Yes, we have to thank.
Don't forget everybody's websites. We've got irwincorey.org. We've got Fit in Bed.
Here's the book, Get Fit in the Bed.
Get Fit in Bed.
If there are any conservatives out there, please buy the book. Save me a minute.
And we'll all see you next week.
We'll see you next week. I'm Paul DeRienzo. Yeah. All right, great. That's the show.
There we go.
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Great show.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.